Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Karl Schnitzer, realtor, investor, entrepreneur, infinite banking practitioner, and a former officer at Philadelphia Police Department. Welcome to the show, Karl.
Hey, AJ, I'm really happy to be here.
Same here, same here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India. And a lot of people across the world will certainly learn a lot from you
Very
because
cool.
you learned about investing from people who just, ignore those places. So we'll just go by it. First question itself is on this card is that, people go to business schools, other places, go to mentors and to learn about investing and right investing.
Mhm.
You learned it while you were on the job on the streets of Philadelphia. Tell
Yeah,
us about this, and we'll take it from there.
sure. So, like AJ said, I was a police officer here in Philadelphia. That sparked for me a passion for real estate. And I'm very thankful. My dad is actually the first one that gave me the idea to start buying property. When I graduated the police academy, I was a young single guy and I didn't really need a big house. So he put the thought in my head of, hey, why don't you go buy a duplex? So that was the first investment that I made. I lived on the bottom half. I rented the top half, and collecting that rent check kind of just sparked something in me of, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm getting paid passively. So while I was a police officer, there's a lot of downtime. I worked overnight, so not every night was crazy. And then you work a lot of different details in hospitals and just watching over prisoners. So there is a lot of downtime. And I took advantage of that, and I read and dove into so many books. I was reading as much as I could. I was reaching out to different masterminds and different groups and local meetups that I could find, and really just dove head first into real estate investing. This is before I was a realtor, so I also saw the district that I worked in. There was construction everywhere. You couldn't go down a block without seeing construction. So I networked with some of the investors down there that were flipping houses, and I just kind of saw how common it really was, and it really just kind of, like I said, sparked that passion for me to go head first in. So once I built that foundation of knowledge and education, I started buying properties myself. I started building a rental portfolio. I was flipping houses. Dove full force while I was still a police officer into real estate investing.
Right, Carl. Yours is a very interesting story and inspiring one. Why I tell you is that there are police officers all across the world.
Mm-hmm.
They work very hard. They work not just for today, but also are worried about their future. A lot of people, want to look at the entrepreneurial side of things. A lot of times they are so busy, especially in India. There are so many people in the police forces across our huge country, and their job keeps on so busy.
Mm-hmm.
That is where your example works, is that how can they make best use of that time in terms of looking at prospects, in terms of investing, or even in terms of entrepreneurship. So that is where is the if you can share more about these things, what are the ways people can, especially police officers or policemen, who can look at ways to for future entrepreneurship.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's tough. There's a lot of work involved in being a police officer and a lot of overtime. So what I personally did, I didn't work any overtime with the police department. There was overtime being offered and I didn't take any of it. My mindset was that I would rather focus on building something that's going to continue to pay me residually for that amount of hours of work rather than working overtime. For a higher pay, you get time and a half when you're working overtime, but it's only going to pay me once. So I had to transition my mindset of, working overtime for the police department to get paid once to working on real estate, the same amount of time that's going to pay me residually every single month. finding the time is tough. And that's where, the reading I was doing a lot at work when we had downtime. But I would say, take an audit of your time. And at least in America, where we, a lot of people don't realize how much time is wasted. I think the average time people spend on social media is 3 hours a day. If you add up social media, playing video games, watching TV, even just driving, spending, 2-3 hours at the gym, if you add up all the time that can be shrunk down, everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. It's just a matter of how you use it. So what I would recommend to people, and I do recommend, because I do coaching myself, we take a look at your entire week, what your schedule looks like. We'll audit that and we'll track it for, several weeks. And then we can see, where you're wasting time. And we can also see where you can buy time back. And, what I mean by that is there's a lot of tasks and different things that you do on a daily and weekly basis that can be bought and for a higher return. So I'll give you an example. I always cut my own lawn, and I thought it was a manly thing of, hey, I have to cut my own lawn. And it wasn't until a mentor said to me, said, why are you cutting your own lawn? And I said, well, I don't want to pay somebody to do it. And he goes, how much would it cost you to pay somebody to mow your lawn? And I said, I don't know, maybe $25. He goes, and how many hours, would that save you a week? And I said, 2 hours. And he goes, okay, so let's take a look at buying 2 hours worth of your time back for the cost of $25. What could you do within that 2 hours that would generate more than $25? And when you kind of shift your mind to start thinking of, hey, how can I buy time back? You can do a lot of things. You can buy a house cleaner. You can buy, obviously a landscaper. You can buy your admin and assistant work. All of that is buying time back for you.
Right, Carl. Now, for those people here, in your case, it was your father, if I understand him, who guided you. Now, a lot of people who do not have somebody to guide them. In your case, suppose if it were not your family member, how do you have started? How do you find people who can actually guide you? And especially, in a situation, in a profession like being a police officer, the environment is different. You yourself are a bit of a tough person, and dealing with different sort of people. And then your mindset is not exactly as that of a startup or an entrepreneur, or even as an investor, if you have a bit of money. So how does it work in terms of mindset, in terms of mentorship, in terms of taking that dream forward?
Sure. And, so my dad sparked the idea, but he wasn't really a coach with me. He didn't have any rental properties. He had never done any flips. He kind of just sparked that idea of, hey, you don't need a big house right now. Why don't you buy something that you can invest with for a long-term future? So, I had him that kind of gave me the idea, but that was it. There wasn't really any kind of, coaching after that. When it comes to coaching, we live in such an age now where, the internet can be awesome for a lot of things, as well as it can be terrible for a lot of things. But there is countless, anybody with a social media account, there's countless of groups out there. If you just, even just Google search, hey, real estate meetups in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hey, investor meetups anywhere you are. There's so many groups out there. And it's funny too, in the police department and in the police world, there's a lot of cops that own property. It's very actually common when you ask around that the more, people, the more you tell people what you're doing, they're actually doing the same thing. I found, a lot of cops that owned real estate, or cops in particular and first responders, they know the real estate market better than a lot of people, especially when you look in kind of Class C and Class D neighborhoods. It's going to go block by block. So, a realtor may have a real macro scale of, hey, this zip code or this, area is good or is bad. Whereas the cop that works the street every day, they know, okay, this is a good block in a bad area. So this bad area, you may be able to get a house very cheap, but it's on a good block, and you can get good tenants in there. It's working class. Maybe there's a drug block somewhere else, so they don't bother with this block. And that's where having that real internal knowledge of markets really, really helps being a cop. And the other thing about being a cop is that we're action takers. we are used to taking action. A lot of people get stuck in analysis paralysis where they're just constantly learning or they're analyzing deals and they're never taking action. It's built inside first responders to be an action taker. So you can, take all the knowledge you need, but then you have to take action on it. And that's where I think first responders and police officers really, really excel against other investors.
Right. That's a good point you brought, that you people are action takers, and most of the time your mind is tuned that way. But what inspired you to build a rental portfolio? Because getting into real estate was one thing, but then this is something even very say experienced investors
Right.
look at in terms of a long-term thing.
So, just overall building wealth. I knew pretty fairly into the police department that I did not want to build a career there. So I did 4 years with the police department, and I saw the people with 20, 30 years on, and I did not want to be that person. It's a very, very tough job on you and your family. My wife, she hated me being a cop, and I knew I wasn't going to be there long term. I had desires to, retire fairly early, but just build wealth for my family. Once I kind of dove down that rabbit hole of building wealth and building a real estate portfolio, it kind of gives you a clarity, and it kind of gives you a reality check that, hey, this retirement, or this, I just call it freedom. This doesn't have to be 30 years away. You can realistically build, an exit from your job within several years of building up passive income and focusing on that, rather than focusing on, an accumulation model of retirement accounts and pensions that take 30 years to build up. It's just a different, accumulation strategy versus cash flow strategy. So once I kind of had that mental shift of, hey, I wanted to build wealth, I wanted to build a legacy for my family, and I wanted freedom. That was really it. I really wanted freedom. It's not that I disliked any of my supervisors. I had great supervisors, but I hated the amount of control they had over me. And that's what really kind of lit that fire in me, that, I wasn't free. Somebody else had control over my life.
Right. I understand. And, it is individuals also. Many a times you just want to be the way you are, much more independent in your thoughts, in your actions, and being in a job does not allow. But one thing I wanted to understand in terms of mindset, Karl, is that being in this sort of a role, or several similar roles, people become more action takers. And that can be an advantage many a times. But when you are an entrepreneur, there are several things in business which you need to step back and observe, and then take an action, and many a time say no to business deals.
Right. I completely agree.
How do you do that? How do you transform yourself from an action taker to somebody who thinks in a way which is thinking about not immediate action, but something which can be long-term positive for you? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great kind of idea that I never thought of. So we're action takers, but I would say it's building that foundation of knowledge first. So I would never recommend somebody that has no education to go out and flip a house or buy a rental property. There's taking action, but there's taking a calculated risk with education back behind it. So I think the best way to limit your risk in that sense, if you're a go-getter and an action taker, you have to have that foundational knowledge behind you. They say knowledge is power, but it's applied knowledge that's power. Knowledge is only powerful if you can apply it, and that's where obviously you want to be an action taker and you want to apply the knowledge, but knowledge comes first. So having that base and that foundation and a good group. I'm in several masterminds and networking events now that if there's anything that I'm questioning, I can sleep on it, or I can reach out to a mentor or a friend or anybody to say, hey, I'm thinking about this deal. If you were in my shoes, what would you be looking at? Do you see any red flags here? And just having that, the knowledge, but then also having the friends and the network to run and bounce ideas off of is super, super priceless.
Right. And then you are going, your real estate itself is enough for you. Then you moved, real estate investing, that led to infinite banking
Hmm.
thing. And then you studied, you got Nelson Nash Institute authorized infinite banking
Yep.
practitioner. You worked for it.
Correct.
Now, what exactly is infinite banking concept, and
Sure.
what attracted you towards that? Is it related to real estate?
Yes.
What you seem to add much more value to your own as an individual. Means how
Mhm.
does this work with you?
Sure. So, being in real estate, every real estate investor out there knows they could make more money, they could buy more deals, they could buy more houses if they had more capital. You know, the capital, once you have that kind of base, whether it's private lending, hard money lending, however it is that you're building capital up, every real estate investor knows, hey, if I just had, more money, I could go out and buy more deals. So that's where I found infinite banking, which is being able to leverage and collateralize life insurance policies for loans to go out and acquire more assets. So infinite banking, it's been around for over 100 years, close to 200 years. There's been some pretty well known, Walt Disney World. He was into infinite banking. He started Disney World from a loan from his life insurance. Not a lot of people know that. And when you look at what banks do and where banks keep their money, they keep their money in life insurance. There's a good portion of their balance sheet that's held, their tier one capital, which is their safest place they keep money. It's held in life insurance. So I was sitting at a real estate event in Philadelphia, and it was a nationally recognized event. People from all over the country were there. And I was sitting in the audience, and the next person up on stage was a guy, his name's MC Lobsher, and he runs the Cash Flow Ninja podcast, very, very well-known podcast. And I had listened to his podcast. I knew who he was. And he gets on stage and he starts talking about leveraging life insurance policies to go out and acquire more assets. So I was really kind of dove into that after I listened to him speak. And so him and I had become friends, and I became a client of his, and I started using my policies that he helped me build for buying properties and flipping houses. And I was leveraging my life insurance policies to go acquire more assets. That's the infinite banking process, is utilizing life insurance policies to either go buy liabilities or assets. And there's many benefits to doing it that way versus a traditional way of using cash or going to a bank. When you go to a bank, obviously you're paying interest to a lender. When you use cash, you lose the opportunity cost of that money. The cool thing about infinite banking is the capital that you have in the life insurance account, when you borrow from it, it never actually comes out. So, for numbers, say you have $100,000 in your cash account through a life insurance policy, and you borrow $100,000 to go flip a house, your $100,000 that was originally in there is still going to continue growing. So the idea behind infinite banking is that we have two forces in math working for us. We have amortizing interest going down, and we have compound interest going up. So they work, in opposite directions, but for us. So what I always like to tell people, and it's kind of a trick question, but I'll ask you, AJ, would you take a loan for 5% if you could then make 5% on that loan? Would it be a wash, or do you think you would have a net gain or net loss?
Well, it all depends, but is for a general person who's not very good in terms of numbers, I would look at it as a positive thing. I can go for it.
Right. So when a lot of people, they think interest in it is interest, and that's it. There's different types of interest, and compound interest, you have an increasing basis, whereas amortizing interest, you have a decreasing basis. So you get a net positive result by using funds this way. And it's a very, very powerful tool. When you look at, what the wealthiest families do, and even the central banks themselves, how they store money and how they lend money, a lot of it goes back to life insurance policies. So that's where I became really, really passionate about the infinite banking concept, because I personally was using it, to buy real estate. I bought an airplane using my life insurance policies. I buy cars, anything that I need, any large purchase that I have, I use my infinite banking policies because I don't lose the opportunity cost of the money. And I get the compounded growth even when it's leveraged. So it makes large purchases a lot more efficient by structuring it that way.
Okay, so now you are a fully, full investor or entrepreneur talking here, and it's nice to see a young man talking about so deep about investment. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn more about you, about and from you. But first, one more thing to understand is that real estate can sound very lucrative, look very lucrative.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this real estate not for? Uh, is there anything that you thought that, okay, this is not for this sort of a person? It's a very general question,
Mm-hmm.
but you may have also several times felt difficult in terms of dealing in this industry. But that's you overcame it. But there are general type of people for whom they may not find themselves attuned to real estate. Is there any advice or caution that you would want to give on this front?
So I'll kind of answer that in two ways. I would say real estate as an asset class is for everybody. I think everybody should have some allocation of their whole, investment portfolio in real estate, whether that's, in REITs or anything like that versus actually physically owning the property. I think real estate's an awesome asset class to balance out a portfolio. When you own it yourself, there's a lot of tax benefits to that as well. The person I would say real estate is not for, when you're physically the one owning the property or going out and doing the flips, is, everybody has either money or time or both. I think that if you have money and no time, then you probably don't want to be the one going out there physically buying the properties. In that scenario, it would probably be in your best interest to partner with somebody that has the time, because you have to go down, you have to look at, 30 properties just to buy one. You got to meet with contractors and do different estimates and go check up on jobs. If you're self-managing, you have to go, fix a toilet sometimes. It's definitely time consuming. There is a reward, don't get me wrong. There's a nice reward with owning real estate. But there is time involved with it. So if you're the kind of person that has no time, we have a lot of doctors and, high income earners as clients that they have a lot of money, but they have no time. So, somebody like that, it would make more sense for them to just focus on what they do, what's generating the income for them, what they're good at, and then just park some of their money over in real estate with somebody that has the time to go out there. So they still get the tax benefits, they still get the appreciation, the cash flow, everything, without taking up a lot of time. The other thing I would say who it's not for is investors that are not comfortable with leverage. Most real estate investors use financing to acquire a lot of their real estate. So if somebody is under the mindset of, hey, I want to be debt free, I don't want any debt, I don't want any mortgages, anything like that, any payments, I don't know if real estate would be the best asset class for you, because you can increase your ROI by utilizing leverage properly. You don't have to, fully over leverage yourself, but it does help the return that you get in the real estate asset class by using leverage. So I would say it's not for somebody that's not comfortable with that. There's ways to mitigate the risk of using leverage. However, I don't personally see the return in using cash when it comes to real estate. You get a higher ROI on your money once you incorporate leverage to that equation.
Right. Now, a lot of tech is coming into housing, into real estate, and especially when you are talking of, rented houses and all. So, how do you see that? Do you also use it for your own properties when you are dealing? Is there more demand for such things? How do you deal when customers are talking about such things? How do you look at this integration of more tech into housing and real estate?
Sure. So I would say I use tech more so for the real estate sales I do as a realtor than for the investments. The investments, they don't require a lot of tech in the aspect of computers and stuff like that. You can use, there's systems out there to manage contractors and rent collection and everything. There's systems for that, and they're good. I would say when I sell real estate as a realtor, it's a lot more prevalent. And, I use all different kinds of systems for my marketing, for my CRM, for, my follow-up on leads, for managing my sales pipeline of people. The tech side is a lot more prevalent in the sales side of real estate than the investing. There's investors out there that I'm sure use the programs and stuff for their own tenants and stuff like that. There are some really cool programs. When I was using the one property management company that I was using, they had an app that the tenant had access to, and any issues that they had, they could just take a picture, send it right to the property manager. He would send it right to a contractor, get a bid that would automatically get sent to me, all in the background within 2 minutes, and it's super, super efficient. What I really am excited to see in the cryptocurrency and the blockchain space as a realtor, my realtor friends and I, we have talked before, and I'm not the expert on crypto or the NFT space or anything like that. It's still somewhat new to me, but where I really, really see the use for it with NFTs is for the title and the deeds of properties. I'm not sure how it works in India, but in America here, each property has a deed and a title. And when you buy a property, you have to do a title search to make sure that there's no liens or judgments against that title.
Yeah, it's sorry to interrupt. It's the same here. Okay. Maybe some process will be, but yes, it's like that. It's
yeah, and this is where having an NFT as a title could disrupt the industry, where there's no more title searches. There's no more 2-3 weeks to get title searches back, going down to City Hall here in Philadelphia and physically having to go through records to see what's on that title. If everything was recorded on the blockchain and that title was an NFT, I mean, with the snap of a finger, you could have the full history of a house, which is really, really cool. So I see, a really, huge opportunity in the tech space when it comes to deeds and titles.
Right. Deeds and titles. So how do people connect with you for their real estate needs, for their investment needs, either to learn or to, in fact, collaborate with you?
Sure. So I'll leave a couple links with you that you can share as well.
Yes.
My website for the infinite banking is called producerswealth.com. To set up a call or a strategy call or any kind of like videos or resources, I have another link that's schedulewithkarl.com. That's Karl with a K. Instagram, I'm pretty prevalent and on Facebook, all the social media stuff. And yeah, those are the two links. Any kind of real estate needs. My website is Homes Around Greater Philadelphia. So, I service Philadelphia and all the surrounding counties here as a realtor. And then, I do some coaching for other realtors, or I have a lot of cops that reach out to me, and I'm, helping them get their first, couple properties, and, just helping them have that reassurance of, hey, is this a good deal? And, I can look at it objectively and say, look, if it were me and I was in your shoes, yes, I would personally buy this, or no, I think there's better deals out there. So I do coaching like that, all kinds of different things. But those are the links, anyone can get in contact with me through those links.
Wonderful. Well, wonderful. I'll add some of these links to the YouTube description so that people can access you easily. Now, my last question to you, Karl, is that you have achieved quite a lot in these years that you have worked, starting from being a police officer to where you are. Mm-hmm. Now, what next? You are very young. How have you planned your future? Is it all about real estate? Is it much more about tech? What else?
No, it's definitely not about real estate. So I love real estate as an asset class. Don't get me wrong. However, like I said, it can be time consuming. So what I'm trying to do is step back from real estate as an active investor, and kind of just be a limited partner in deals where I'm just putting up money for deals for other people. That's kind of my real estate desire right now. I'm still selling real estate as a realtor. So I do enjoy that because I have awesome clients and a lot of police officer clients that they come to me because they know they can trust me. So I still intend to sell real estate as a realtor. I'm still going to invest in real estate, just on a different kind of spectrum as a limited partner versus a general partner. And then, my main focus and passion is teaching and designing these infinite banking policies for other people. I see the power of it. I've used it myself, and I continue to use it myself. And I see what's going on in the market with pension systems and qualified retirement plans, and a lot of things that can disrupt a lot of people in their future. So, I am a lot more risk averse and keeping stuff with an insurance that has a guaranteed growth to it. So that's my main focus right now, is helping other people, build out these policies. And then also building the policy is one thing. It's the education and the how to use it is a whole nother thing where, my firm really, I think, exceeds because we have an online education system and courses for clients once they get their policies built of, okay, I have this policy now, how do I use it? That's where I think we have a lot of upper hand on our competition, having that back end system built. So, and then the other thing too is family. I'm trying to build a family here, and my wife and I are going to look into moving soon. So aside from business, I'm working on just being a good husband and soon to be a good father.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Congratulations in advance. And on this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much for joining us.